Inside this room, all of my dreams become realities, and some of my realities become dreams.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here? Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
You are listening to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute. Here are your hosts, Alan Sanders and Walt Murray.
Welcome back, everyone, to The Wilder Ride, getting wilder by the minute, a podcast where we break down and celebrate the films of Gene Wilder 1 minute at a time. We are breaking down the film Young Frankenstein. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Alan Sanders.
And I'm your co-host, Walt Murray.
And joining us once again, getting a little bit of break from being hidden behind the camouflage nets and the tinted cars, we've got a couple of private detectives who are going to help us continue to look at this film 1 minute at a time. Welcome back, Matt Gray and Ben Peacock.
Here we are again.
If you see a van in your neighborhood trying to sell ice cream to your kids, that could be Matt.
Andy won't be at work.
And it is ice cream. I am actually selling ice cream. It's just a side hobby of mine.
We definitely need to put Matt's picture on our website, just to warn people.
I already can't go within 500 feet of an old people's home. There's a long story behind that I cannot get into.
An old people's home.
Too long.
Much like this movie, I actually was not expecting that one.
And neither were the folks of the old people's home down the street.
Shady Acres will never be the same.
Oh, it was shady already.
Don't go in the pool, folks.
Well, we are looking at minute number 34 now. When last we left, we had discovered a book, and it was the How I Did It by Victor Frankenstein. And we realized that our main character, our Dr. Frankenstein, was reading it. He had come across the line, and yet so simple. We continue this minute as the camera is panning down, and we hear an ever more manic-sounding doctor talking about changing the poles from plus to minus. And then it will end with the good doctor in a very pastoral-looking breakfast scene, offering a kipper, which we don't know if that's a kipper, not the way I know of a kipper, offering a kipper to Inga.
Yes, and
I'm going home and asking the wife if I can give her a kipper.
Yeah. I don't think you want to give her
Care
a kipper.
for a kipper?
Yeah, and everybody will be wondering where that's going. Well, the opening of this is really funny because, he does kind of go through the science of, okay, here's how we're going to reanimate life. And apparently it's just as easy as making the plus negative and the negative positive, and you got it. But you have Inga and Igor sound asleep, and then Dr. Frankenstein looks up with his crazy eyes and
eyes
yells,
to rival Igor, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. And he says, "It could work." And I don't think there's ever been a less sure, more excited exclamation of anything in history.
It's
It
not
could work.
completely positive. Yeah.
I was expecting it will work. I can do this.
There's a slight chance.
There's a possibility.
You're telling me there's a chance.
Yeah, exactly.
You just never know.
More like 1 in a million.
Well, you're guaranteed to fail if you don't try.
There you go.
So they say you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yes, right. And he's going to take his shot, I guess. Great start to this minute with the two of them, faces in their hands, sound asleep, while the good doctor reads aloud from the other good doctor's conclusions on reanimating life.
How much do you guys know about electricity?
I know not to touch it. Or pee on it. Don't pee on it.
Do not pee on it.
Especially, don't whiz on the electric fence. The board game.
Very, very good advice.
So, I got to ask a question. It starts where we hear him continuing to talk from the previous minute, and he says, change the poles from plus to minus and from minus to plus. Basically reversing current back and forth.
Switch the batteries. Like your remote's not working.
That's it.
What does that mean? Change the poles from minus to plus, and then from plus to minus, and then from minus to plus.
My guess is that they just found something that sounded kind of electrical and tagged it in there. I have no idea what they could possibly be talking about.
Now, see, I know a little bit about electricity. I mean, DC current, direct current, has a positive and negative pole. Therefore, if you switch the poles, you're just switching the direction of the current. But then you've got the invention of alternating current, where the poles are constantly changing, hence the name alternating current. So, are we just trying to say a very fancy way of alternating current?
I guess so.
Exactly, Alan. We all agree.
So if it's alternating current, which is what we get out of the walls, lightning is not alternating current.
No, it is not.
Lightning is direct current. It is a static discharge. So it doesn't make any sense. The science is already all wrong.
Now, wait a minute. Let me get this straight, Alan.
I take issue with this.
You're postulating that he may not be successful in reanimating life if he follows this formula.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't think
what
people
kind
at
of
home-
crazy science are you throwing at us here?
I feel a responsibility to the audience for people to not necessarily plug their finger in a socket and expect something dead to come alive.
Now, so Graham, stay with me here.
Or hook it up to a lightning rod. for that matter.
Hypothetically speaking,
Just speaking hypothetically, as
speaking.
OJ often would.
Grandpa drops dead this afternoon.
Aw.
Me ramming his finger in the electrical socket won't bring him back? Is that what you're telling us?
No, well, you have to use a
Well, no,
taser.
according to the script, it would. But then they're going to use lightning, which they just showed us in the previous second, which we know from the Frankenstein story. So lightning is not alternating current. So they've already contradicted themselves.
Well, I assume that they needed the lightning because of the amount of electricity that they needed in order
the
to
voltage.
reanimate it.
Like
Yes.
gigawatt.
Yeah, exactly.
1.21?
Yeah.
But that way we can go back in time.
I'm about to say, you don't want to go back in time.
50
You wanna-
gazillion gigawatts in order to get him back to life.
Actually, they call it in the movie a gigawatt, but it's gigawatt in reality. Anyways, that's all. Apparently, I know a little bit more about electricity than I thought I did. I just think it's funny that we've got this.
I can't even get the batteries in things the right way. And you're throwing this at me?
What's the old Stephen Wright joke about his girlfriend was rich, or it was rich because Dad came up with that diagram to tell you which way to put the batteries.
And I still
invented
can't
it.
get it right.
I just think it's interesting to have this, what would be a scientific explanation for the good doctor's work, changing the poles from plus to minus and then minus to plus, which basically is either alternating current or, wait, maybe you're just reversing current.
Possibly. Keep
What
on
happens
going,
when
Alan. You have me intrigued.
I want to know, have you ever jumped a car, like jump started?
Oh, yeah.
What happens if you put the plus to the minus and the minus to the plus between the two cars?
The car becomes a transformer. Optimus Prime, I believe.
Exactly.
What? You've been hiding that in your back pocket. That was spot on.
Child of the 80s, man.
Well, I also know
The
that...
battery's gonna blow.
Yeah.
Wait, whoa, hey now.
Yeah.
But it's like, I gotta try this.
I'm about to say, I got to get some big batteries at my house now.
Well, I also know that if you take the unplugged ends and ram them together, it makes a heck of a spark
Yeah.
show.
Oh, that's good for the battery, too. The
It
battery
is.
loves that.
It
when
is
you do that.
awesome.
When you try to discharge it like that,
Yes.
it loves
So do
that.
hostages.
It's how you get extra life on the car battery.
Yeah.
But couldn't you blow the alternator or do something if you cross them? I mean, that's pretty.
Oh, yeah. Don't
first
cross
thing
the streams.
Don't cross the streams. No. Total proton reversal.
Exactly.
I mean, we're not going to belabor this. I just find it interesting that they're trying to plug in some, like, they didn't have to put a technical explanation. They could have just gone on with what he said. I succeeded in discovering the cause of the generation of life. We had him reading this book all night long. We can tell when he rises up, he's got dark circles under his eyes. Hair is haggard. Of course, it is Gene Wilder. It's always haggard, but
Yeah.
even more haggard than usual. He looks maniacal. I don't know that I needed this one line about change the poles. They left it in, but it's odd.
An A for effort, though. I mean, they threw something in there that
That's an
sounded
E.
like an E for extraordinary.
There you go.
Extraordinary effort. That they did throw something in there that was kind of pseudoscientific to at least make it seem like there was some kind of formula that he was following that the doctor had written out.
Well, we see him rise up out of this, I don't know what it is, all-night marathon session through the notes. We get the sense, thankfully, of the two other characters. They have long since fallen asleep. Whatever he's been reading aloud this whole time, they don't find nearly as interesting as he does. But he has stumbled across some passage that has just flipped a switch. Dr. Frankenstein has now become very close to Dr. Frankenstein.
He is.
It's
well
like he's
on the
turned
way.
from the distinguished professor into a guy from Florida who's high on bath salts. And And I'm realizing that that's a little redundant. I could have just said a guy from Florida.
A Florida man.
A Florida man. Oh, the Florida man, exactly.
Florida man.
The Florida man. So many things he's done.
There is an interesting thing in the script before we move on and continue to talk about the Mad Doctor's degeneration. Remember how we were talking last minute, and we had mentioned this before, that maybe he's trying to disprove his grandfather's work? There is a lot of dialogue that was taken out of this scene that was in the script originally. Starting with these lines, and this is what he's initially saying off screen as this camera's doing this slow move into the sleeping Inga and Igor. When I look back now, it seems to me as if this almost miraculous event obliterated any last effort by the spirit of preservation to avert the storm that was even then banging in the stars. And we hear thunder outside. Then Dr. Frankenstein goes, he kills me! This guy kills me! Like he's making fun of the writing. He then goes on to read, until from the midst of this darkness a sudden light broke in upon me, a light so brilliant and wondrous, and yet so simple. And then he goes to change the poles from plus to minus and minus to plus. And then yells, I alone succeeded in discovering the cause of the generation of life. So the whole part beforehand where he's kind of like disregarding this guy is left completely out to go straight to only the last line where he is finally convinced that he knows exactly what was being written. In fact, there's an earlier line where he even says, and as soon as the dazzling light vanished, the oak tree had disappeared, I knew that electricity and galvanism had changed my life. And then he looks up and yells, Tutti Frutti! Making fun of such silly notions that lightning can be the cause to help bring somebody back from the dead. I think this is another one of those examples of the edit working can keep the story moving. Because Ben, had we had this constant making fun of, I don't think it would have worked this last scene where all of a sudden he realizes, oh wait, it could work.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just worked better, obviously. It gave a much better, the illusion that he was up all night reading this, and it slowly started to seep into his brain that it all makes sense. And like, yeah, Ben said, it would have been too fast for him to be like, preposterous, and then, well, okay, it works.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It may have been funny in writing and funny maybe even filming, but I think if you were to go back and watch it, I think what Ben said is absolutely right, Walt. It'd be too much of all of a sudden a 180-degree turn in the middle of a scene.
Yeah, and we've talked about before that they cut a ton of stuff, nearly twice as much out of the movie as we have in the movie. And as we look at stuff like that and the way that they cut it, this movie could have really gotten in the weeds. I mean, it could have gotten really dense and really slow. And they did a great job of figuring out what needed to stay and what needed to be burned.
I agree. I think in this case, not only for the sake of the jokes, but also for the pacing of the film in and of itself. It feels like we're now chugging into something now. The movie has now taken a turn. Dr. Frankenstein is on a mission, and now it's a different mission. It's not the mission to disprove. It's suddenly I'm inspired because I've stumbled across the piece of information that I was missing to believe what had happened.
Yes, and if you look at this scene and then going back to early in the film with the med school scene, this movie is what did we call it yesterday? A horror, comedy horror.
Suspenseful comedy.
Suspenseful comedy. And if they had gotten too deep in either one of those two places, I think they really could have lost us. Yeah, it would not have worked.
Now, here's something funny. We have the maniacal face of Gene Wilder looking up, almost basically looking straight up at us to mirror what we then cut to, which is a picture of Dr. Frankenstein, Victor Frankenstein, the portrait, sitting in his bedroom, and it cuts in. And the way the painting is made and the way the lightning hits it, it looks like he's grinning.
Ear to ear.
He's got like a grin on his face, like you can see his teeth. But here's something taken from the script that was in there. This particular moment was actually in the script. But what was supposed to happen is multiple thunderclaps. The first one was going to be lightning and suddenly a look on Igor's face where he was just going to have a quizzical Igor typical look like, huh? Then it was going to cut to Inga's face where she looks frightened. Then another flash of lightning. We were going to see Frau Bluka, illuminated by lightning, sitting back smoking a cigar. Then the portrait. And the very last shot we were going to see before it fade to black, one last crack of lightning, we are back into the main foyer. The lid of the coffin that we first saw in the opening of the movie is there. It opens, and we hear the voice of Beaufort going, oh, because as we know, he didn't agree with Victor's work.
Right.
He was hoping the grandson would be an honorable medical student, and that's why he chose to put in his will that the only way he would give his estate to somebody outside of the immediate family is if this great-grandson of his was an honorable doctor of some distinguished or some note that had gone on his own into the medical field. Not some quack. We need someone to restore the Frankenstein name. Well, since that all got left out, this joke wouldn't have worked about hearing the voice of the ghost of or the memory of Beaufort going, oh.
Yeah, and I think even if we had that piece, it would have been okay.
I mean, it's funny.
It was funny. But
we wouldn't know why he was saying that because we dropped the entire premise of the whole reading of the will.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting point about movie making, right? That sometimes a piece doesn't fit, but if you take it out, it changes a lot of the flow of the movie. And I think we see that a lot with movies today, when they go in for rewrites and they're like, hey, this didn't work with the audience, let's take it out. And then later you see it on a Blu-ray or something where you're like, man, that scene would have really helped tie some of the movie together.
Now I got to ask you a question as we move into then the last quarter of this minute. After this maniacal reading, the typical Gene Wilder somehow finding new levels to shout, he gets louder and louder, and he still manages to maintain that. We've got the maniacal look. We cut to the painting. I think it's an interesting directing choice after we've seen him going absolute crazy. We've got a very little, just a normal kind of breakfast scene. It starts off with a wide shot across the room looking into the breakfast cove at the dining room table, and they're just having breakfast.
Well, and several things that I noticed about this scene. Number one, this is the first time we've seen sunlight in this building, and this is a wide open window shot. He is excited. He's full of energy, which for our listeners, be sure to pay attention to that, because this scene where they're sitting at the table eating and everything is great. Everybody's happy. They're full of optimism and excitement. And the Dr. Frankenstein, at this point, is happy as we've seen him so far in the movie.
Without a doubt. He seems like it's almost like what happened last night almost was the nightmare. You almost wonder, are we going to get the rug pulled out from under us? We saw 10 minutes ago, he started off his little quest with a nightmare. Was it one of those moments where he's going to now wake up in bed and he had just dreamt all of this?
That's a good thought. Well, and I think as he's sitting here and having this breakfast, there's almost a sense of relief that
that's the word, I think.
He's read through the book and he knows it's not quackery.
Well, and in his life, he's struggling with this whole thing of being Frankenstein, right? Mm-hmm. So, changes his name and all this kind of stuff. All of that burden has been released from him after some of the realization from reading the book. I deal with that sometimes with my family. Thinking, wow, am I going to go crazy like they are? Am I going to completely lose
That's
it?
the question is, are you going to go? Yeah, when is that going to happen?
Are as if it hasn't.
Yeah, that's what exactly.
Oh, you're there, dude.
Hey, I resemble this comment.
There's some nice gentlemen with a white coat outside that'll be meeting you.
You've said this actually before, Walt, about you may not necessarily want to become some of your family history, but you may want to know your family history. Even some of the weird parts.
Sure, yeah. And I think for people who have a family that's kind of a mess, I'm sure if you're Richard Nixon's great-grandson, you would like for somebody to kind of come along and go, hey, it wasn't as bad as everybody remembers it. Here were the good things. And I think he's just gotten that. And it isn't something that's out there in the public light yet, but at least it gives him psychologically some closure and understanding there.
I agree. I think that's what's happening here. That it's a brand new day. It's a fresh day. Everything is, like you said, the first time we see sunshine, everything seems like it's been cleaned away. Like all this is gone.
Yeah, I almost expected a zippity doo dah to start playing. It has that light feeling, and and he is really excited.
In the next scene, you get some foreshadowing for the next minute.
Yes, you do.
I've actually been looking at this scene wrong. The way it was, the angle of the camera. I thought, because he says he offers Inga now a kipper. The angle, I thought it was a sausage.
Yeah, no, it's a kipper.
It actually is a kipper.
I thought it was a sausage as well.
Yeah.
No, a kipper is horrifying. It is a smoked pickled herring. and it is cut open and laid out, and herrings are disgusting. They're an oily, nasty fish. The only person I know of who really likes herring is Opus, the penguin. Yeah, no, it's not good.
Well, you know, the funny thing is, my dad used to eat herring.
Why?
I don't know. I never tried it.
Yeah, it's not.
I'm not.
good.
I love seafood, but I'm not into the. I can't eat anchovies. It's like it's too salty and just raw fishy. I just can't do that.
Well,
I love seafood, but I just can't get into that.
Is in sea rations sometimes, and so
That might
it
explain
is
it.
just a utilitarian kind of thing. But it's very popular in England. They love it.
Well, so we've got kipper. Okay, wait a minute. Say that again. It's very popular in England.
In England, yeah.
We're in Transylvania. He's American. She's German. The hell are they doing eating kippers?
Hey,
And it's not sausage. It really looks like...
Doesn't it look like a sausage? I just
Which
had to.
Again, I really thought it was kind of foreshadowing to the whole scene, in the next minute.
oh, right.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, no.
I thought this was a play on words, almost a joke back to Blazing Saddles
I
when
did
she in this case Madeline Kahn says, "Would you like another Schnitzengruben?"
right.
Please,
Yeah.
baby. 15's my limit on Schnitzengruben.
No, this is just kind of breakfast. A disgusting, horrifying breakfast.
Well, it's disgusting to you, but what if you like herring?
Nobody should like herring.
Make that judgment.
There's no reason. No, I'll judge on this one. I'm not a judgmental person. Well, I am.
Well,
but
yes,
I'm about
you
to
are.
say, what
in
are
real
you
life,
talking
I am. My character on this show is not a judgmental person. There's no reason to eat herring.
Well, it just kind of ruins all the notes that I had because I can't believe I've watched this as many times as I have. And
Well,
from
thanks
the
for listening,
angle,
folks.
no, from the angle, it looks long and sausage like a kielbasa or something.
Well, no, it's a dried out smoked fish. It's gross.
Well, but
Changes
she's
the whole movie for me. I
don't know if I can watch this anymore.
It's
It
easily
does.
a 3 out of
I'm
10
done.
now.
Well, I guess as we begin to bring a close to this particular minute, as they are having kipper for breakfast. Oh God, I can't believe that's a fish.
It is a fish, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow, it is. It's you know, like how when you have a song lyric that you think you've known what the song lyric is, so you've always sung it that way, and then you go
Yes.
read lyrics. It doesn't matter now. You will never be able to sing the song correctly because you've already memorized it as the wrong lyric. I have always seen that as a sausage.
See, and I hear Matt singing a lot, and he sings "Hello, Tony Danza," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"No,
Hold
Matt,
me
it's-
close.
See,
now,
I always
Tony
thought it was
Danza.
the Iron Man. Oh, I thought it was Frying Pan. Like, I am Frying Pan, and I was like, oh man, it's Iron Man. That sucks. I've been
Wow.
saying Frying Pan.
Yeah, growing up, the song, the 80s hit, I always thought it was Rock the Cash Bar. I mean,
Hey, I can rock the,
The
cash,
cash
bar.
bar.
I mean, well, yeah, but it's like, didn't make sense with the rest of the song. Like, let's go rock the cash bar. Okay.
Oh, those punk bands, you just never
Yeah,
know.
that's just whatever. Let them, it sounds good. Let's just,
They're
whatever.
English, you know?
they probably liked herring."
They probably did.
They probably eat kippers for breakfast. All right. Well, as we bring minute 34 to a close, as they are having a delightful breakfast, whether you like herring or not, it's a delightful scene. It's a completely different tone than where we just left in the earlier portion of the minute. Before we forget, or before we leave this minute, Matt, do you have anything?
No, not anything to add. I just, I wish I could have offered Inga a kipper. But now that we know it's not a sausage and a disgusting fish, I think I would like to take that statement back now.
I got something salty and pickled for you.
The pickled part is what gets me.
Much to her eternal relief. You cannot offer that.
What about you, Ben? Anything?
I don't know if we touched on it, but I just loved after the laugh and after the picture. We talked about this one other time. That picture of the great grandfather just reminds me of the Seinfeld episode. Where Kramer gets the picture made, and I don't know. I'd love to have that picture in my room, maybe somewhere.
That would be awesome.
Both of them, like side by
The
side,
Kramer
Kramer
and
and
the
the Frankenstein.
Yeah.
It'd be great in your office,
Yeah.
anytime anybody comes in, just to have those two side by side.
I'm sure my wife
Or
would
put
love
them
it
on
in the living room.
opposite walls.
Oh yeah,
So that way someone's going like,
and
looking
one of the
left,
frames,
looking
one of
right,
the frames
like,
with
what
the lights on the bottom that's
Yeah.
shining the light up onto
Yeah.
the.
That would be
picture.
amazing.
would be pretty
Amazing.
cool.
So-
I think you can get the print the
Kramer
the
is
Kramer
available.
print.
Yeah,
I don't know
bet you
about
could
this
find
one.
somewhere maybe.
I bet you can. And it'd be great to have the more stern face and the smiling one, hang those side by side with the Kramer in the middle.
Yeah.
So,
I like it.
All right, well, as we bring minute number 34 to a close, looking forward to wrapping up the week tomorrow where...
Yeah, I don't have anything else either.
Oh, sorry, Walt. Do you have anything? I thought you had everything.
And so the power struggle begins. This is like
I'm sorry, I
the
just
Civil
had to do
War.
that.
No, it's good.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. I got the controls to the mic. That's all good. I appreciate it.
I'm trying not to get thrown off the show.
Place your bets,
Please
folks.
don't forget me.
Place your bets.
You're looking at the website later, you're like, wait, when did we do these episodes?
3 o'clock? What?
So, Walt, sorry. My deepest apologies, sir. Is there anything that we left out on your notes?
No, I'm good.
All right.
Much
Well-
ado about nothing.
I'm so glad we added an additional minute of length to this particular episode for you. I am here to serve.
You're welcome.
All right, well, as we do wrap up minute 34, can you guys come back one more minute? We've got Friday tomorrow, and I figure I might as well cap out the week. You've been with
All
us
right.
all
That'd be
week.
great.
I'll cancel my plans. I was supposed to visit my mom in the hospital, but I'll
Hey,
cancel it.
speaking of your mom, isn't her birthday tomorrow?
Alan, if you could do me a favor, you could edit out that part as well. That'd be great. I'm going to leave a long silence here so you can know when to edit it out. My mom will be listening to this, and she'll have a lot of questions.
Hi, Michelle.
Did you just say hi, Michelle?
Okay, Mom, listen to me very carefully. If you're listening to this, please don't read into it. Just don't listen to any future episodes. Wait, no. Oh, this is like the Terminator. I can stop this from happening. I can tell her not to listen to the podcast. I'm Sarah Connor.
The future's not set.
Exactly.
Wow. I had no idea we were going to go down that particular rabbit trail.
This is a crazy train.
Well, okay, so tomorrow you're going to need to come back because obviously they're still going to be continuing breakfast, and we'll find out that the good doctor actually has the journal still with him at the table, and it will end with Igor asking the question, something like this, and we'll have to figure out what is this tomorrow. In the meantime, Walt, if somebody wants to learn a little bit more about the Wilder Ride, where do they go?
You are going to want to go to our website, which has all things The Wilder Ride. It is www.thewilderride.com. From there, you can find our Facebook page. You can find our biographies if you're so inclined. You can find our Patreon page. You can find out everything you need to know about this podcast and more.
And of course, you can listen and subscribe. We heartily encourage you to subscribe so that way you don't miss an episode. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, any place where you find your typical podcast that you might be listening to, and you can add us to that mix. And if you want to learn a little bit more about some other movies that are being done 1 minute at a time, check out our good friends at moviesbyminutes.com. That organization has a fantastic website of all the other movies that are being done 1 minute at a time, and who knows? Maybe you'll be crazy enough to try this on your own.
You would have to be crazy.
Totally cuckoo.
Like Gene Wilder at the end of the...
Exactly.
Somebody sitting at home like, it could work!
All you have to do is subscribe.
All right, until tomorrow then.
When we will look at... Son of a... When we will take a deeper look at Dr. Frankenstein.
Is he Frankenstein?
He's Franken something.
Care for another kipper?
No, thank you.